Who is she?
Mrs. Zoom.
Call it Miss Zoom and you got a deal.
Miss Zoom, okay.
Miss Zoom.
So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. So, yes, as Dr. Abdul Rahman just mentioned, so this unit is on knowledge in general. We've learned about the different types of knowledge and the different classes of knowledge. And now, last time we were talking about those who do not put their knowledge to use. So maybe just to give kind of do a quick recap. So there were three types of knowledge. There was knowledge of the So there's two ways of sort of classifying knowledge. Okay. So in the first way of classification, the three types of knowledge are the knowledge of the Sharia, right? Which are your outwardly actions. Then there's the knowledge of the tariqah, right? Which is the knowledge of the path of purifying your heart, and the path of gnosis, Gnosticism, you could say.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third is the knowledge of the haqiqah, right? The knowledge of the truth, of the absolute. And then there's a second way to classify knowledge as well. And within that, in that second way, there's also three types of knowledge. There's ilm kasbi, which is knowledge of the trade. Right?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yes.
Then there's ilm kashfi, which is knowledge that is discovered through mushahada or witness. And then the third is ilm ladunni, which is knowledge that is given directly to you from God with no intermediary between, like the knowledge of Khidr alayhi salam. So as of last time, we started talking about the example of those who use their knowledge, who teach others and preach, and they have the knowledge, but they don't put it to use. And here he's particularly talking about those who teach, but do not practice what they teach themselves. And there are many verses from the Quran that also discuss this. But let's hear it from the words of Mawlana Rumi himself. So he says, "Ta be ki aks khiyal Lubb-e jahd kun ta gardadat in waqi'ah." So what that means is, for how long, ta be ki, for how long will you follow aks khiyal Lubb-e, the image, the imaginary picture of the glittering phantom, right? The reflection of it. How long are you going to follow that? Jahd kun ta gardadat in waqi'ah. So jahd kun, strive, struggle, ta gardadat, in order to make this real for yourself.
Yeah.
تا که گفتارت ز حال تو بود، سیر تو با پر و بال تو بود. So in order that your guftar, what you say, from your own hal, right? Is from your own feeling. Seireto, your flight, ba parobal to بود. Your flight will also be with your own wings and feathers.
We in Urdu call it bawad.
Bawad,
Bawad. Bawad is imaginary thing. Bood is already past. Bawad is would happen.
Seireto ba parobal to بود.
Yes. So that your journey becomes with your own wings.
No, that's
Becomes. It said Bawad is in future. Bood is in the past. But I don't know personally as much, but I'm just saying it makes better sense that way.
you might be right. Yeah.
For how long can this go on? That's what he's saying.
No, Jazakallah.
Mm.
Sayd گیرد تیر هم با پر غیر لاجرم بی بهره ماند از لحم طیر. So it's saying that the arrow, tir, Sayd girad, it captures its prey, ba par ghair. It captures, so the arrow captures its prey without feathers of its own, with feathers that are not its own, right?
Not his own, yeah.
Like a bow and arrow.
Somebody else's, yeah.
Yeah, the feathers on a bow and arrow, right? It's somebody else's feathers.
Yes.
La jaram bi bahre mand as lahm tayr. And as a result, it does not reap the benefits of the prey which it catches, or the game which
meat of the bird.
Yeah, the meat of the bird. باز سی دارد به خود از کوهسار لاجرم شاهش خوراند کبک و سار. So باز سی دارد به خود از کوهسار. So it means it brings with itself from the mountains, the prey that has been caught. Consequently, however, Shahash Khoranat Kapkosar. The king, on the other hand, is the one that gets to eat. The partridge and starling is how this is translated, right? The birds that it catches. And it's a really beautiful example when you think about it, how the one who is preaching from simply, imitating the words that it's either read somewhere else or heard from somewhere else, and simply regurgitating that without having practiced it himself is similar to the arrow that is being used to catch the prey, but reaps no benefit of the prey itself, the meat of the prey. So then here he elaborates more. He says, منطقی که ز وحی نبود از هواست همچو خاکی در هوا و در هواست. So the speech, or in Farsi, speech is
logic.
Yeah, logic is also, that was also what I was going to say. The logic which is not from revelation, which is not from wahi, as a havas, it springs from self-will. Hamcho khaki dar hava wo dar habas. It's similar to dust that is, small speckles of dust that is floating in the air, that you can see in the rays of the sun, right? گر دلیلت هست اندر فعل آر تیغ چوبین را بدل کن ذوالفقار. So گر دلیلت هست, So it means if you have proof, if you have the dalil, the
Yes.
proof, and dar fi'l are, bring it into action. Tighe chubin, right?
Mhm.
Take your wooden sword, badal kun zulfiqar, and exchange it with zulfiqar. Zulfiqar was the sword of Imam Ali. It was the famous sword that he used that had two throngs, or two blades, two edges to it. And then he says, as Ali miras dari zulfiqar, bazuye shir khuda hastat biyar. So he's saying, if you may have, right, you may have Ali, miras Ali. So you may have as a heritage from Imam Ali, the sword of Zulfiqar.
Not,
Right?
not you may, you do have it. It's definite. Azari miras dari, you already have it.
Yeah, okay.
It's in your inheritance, he says. Zulfiqar is something that is your heritage.
از علی میراث داری ذوالفقار، بازوی شیر خدا هستت بیار. If you have the muscle, the arm muscle, bazu is, your
The arm is good, yeah.
your biceps, right?
Yeah.
بازوی شیر خدا هستت. So it means if you have the arms, the strong arms of the lion of God. So here he's referring to Imam Ali. If you have that, bring it forward. Do you have?
Let me do it the other way. I mean, we read it, Al Ali Miras Dari Zulfiqar. You have your inheritance Zulfiqar like Hazrat Ali did. Bazue Shere Khuda Hasta. Bayar, you have that arm of Shere Khuda. Bring it out.
So you're saying it's not a question. It's saying
It's not a question. It's definite.
Yeah. I agree with you.
Because the previous line was Gard Dalilat Hast. Under fair, if you have any argument, what did you call it? Proof. Yeah, bring it into action. Under fair art. Tege chubir or badal. Kun Zulfiqar. Apni wooden, change your wooden sword into Zulfiqar. And then he says, because you do have it, this is something that is you received from Ali, bring it out and just use it. We call it Shere Khuda. And you read it Shir Khuda. And Shir for Urdu speakers is milk. This is why it's a little bit confusing.
Yeah, in Farsi.
Farsi is Shir, yes, yeah.
Farsi, both milk and lion, they're both pronounced as Shir. Oh. So it's a
all right, okay.
Yeah, they're both pronounced the same, but they have different meanings. And
okay.
And Mawlana Rumi, and somewhere else, he actually makes a joke about that, about how the two are pronounced the same, but the meanings have nothing in common. I have to go dig that out, and maybe I'll share it next time.
that would be interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I know. He refers to that. He says, although share and she spell the same, but they are different. Yes.
Yes.
I know what you're referring to. Mm-hmm.
چون که مردی نیست خنجرها چه سود چون نباشد دل ندارد سود جود. So چون که مردی نیست means when there's no manliness, خنجرها چه سود, right? What's the use of the daggers? And again, chon ke mardi nis, it's mardi was in Farsi is symbolistic for bravery, generosity,
manliness.
Yeah, there was an equivalence to it. So obviously, this applies to sisters as well, but I just wanted to make that clear. چون نباشد دل ندارد سود جود. So it's saying چون نباشد دل means when there's no heart, ندارد So it says nadarad sud jud, but actually in the Mathnawi itself, it says nadarad sud khud. So khud means it's talking about the helmet. The helmet is of no avail, and that's why where Nicholson's translation is coming from. Over here, it actually writes nadarad sud jud. And I think Dr. Abdul Rahman, let me know what you think, but I think this is over Jude means like wujud, right? What use?
No.
Right?
Jude is mercy or
Generosity, right?
yeah, mercy or karam, somebody's blessings. So this Jude does not belong here. Food is probably the right word. You brought it out. Yeah. And here the dil is not really the heart. Here the dil means courage. Dil, yeah. Here, if you don't have the courage, then he talked about your manlyhood, then all the daggers are of no use. And when you don't have the courage, then the other one. Yes. So I don't know how he translated it, but
yeah, I don't know actually.
dil nadarat sud khud. Yes.
Yes. در جهاد راه حق بنما جدی چند بنشینی به کنج مسجدی. So in در جهاد راه حق, in the jihad or struggling in the way of Allah or in the way of truth, bin majidi means be serious about it. Chand bin shini be kunje masjidi. So it's saying until when do you plan to to sit in the corner or in the side of the masjid quietly
in a nook.
In a nook, yes. خایفان راه را کردی دلیر از همه لرزانتری و زیر زیر. So it's saying خایفان راه, so those who were afraid of the path. کردی دلیر, you made them brave. But on the other hand, as همه لرزانتری, you yourself are more afraid of everybody, right? You're shaking. Va zir zir, and you're shaking and you're hiding. بر همه درس توکل میکنی پشه ای را در هوا رگ میزنی. So you yourself are teaching tawakkul to everybody. You're teaching everybody else that they should, be cool and calm and put their trust in Allah. You yourself, however, pasheiro dar hava rag mizani. You are slitting or cutting the vein of flies or gnats in the air. هست تعلیم کسان ای چشم شوخ همچو نقش خوردن هست تعلیم کسان ای چشم شوخ همچو نقش خورد کردن بر کلوخ. So by the way, so here there's another difference with the Mathnawi itself. So in the Mathnawi it says Hasan, and so the meaning can kind of change depending on how you read it. But it's so it's saying Chesh Pshuch, oh you who are impudent or rude or shameless. Hast ta'lim khasan, so teaching those who are worthless. Hamcho nakhsh khord kardan bar kuluch is similar to drawing a design in the clay or in mud. But over here it says kasan. Has ta'lim kasan ey cheshm shuch. So to teach Kasan means like just people, right? Just
A peasant is kisan, yeah.
a
A
peasant.
farmer, yeah.
I guess then I guess
You
it's,
can, you're right. If it's a kas, then it's a person, yes. Kasan means people, yeah.
yeah.
But kisan also is a peasant, so in Urdu, I don't know about Persian here. I don't know under what reference is he saying Chashme Shokh. Chashme Shokh is a bright-eyed person. In other words, you are making showing off or
Right.
call yourself kind of a smart person. So I don't know, I don't get this. This next second line is like drawing something on dirt.
Yeah, well, I think when we read this next one, it'll make more sense.
I
But then
hope
he
so.
says, "Khish ra ta'lim kun ishq wa nazar kan bud chun naqsh dar jaram hajar."
Okay.
So it's saying, teach yourself instead. Yeah, right. Instead of trying to teach others, teach yourself of ishq, love, van nazar, insight, right? Kan bud chun naqsh dar jaram hajar. So that by teaching yourself love and insight, that is similar to drawing or imprinting a map or a design in a hard stone, right? It's
Beautiful.
permanent. It doesn't
Yes.
go away.
Yes.
So I think maybe what he's saying in this previous line is, you who are a show off and you're doing this, just to get other, this teaching to get other people's attention. That's just like, drawing something in the mud, right? The water is going to, and the wind is going to quickly wash it away. Whereas if you focus on teaching yourself true love and insight, that's something that's permanent. You're implanting something that's permanent, something that won't go away.
Even if you use that a peasant, even then it makes sense. Like a peasant, don't keep doing something on the dirt when you're tilling the soil and you're making some kind of a sign there. It disappears, but make an impression with your passion and with your insight, so that it stays on others. It makes its impression like it is casting on a stone, so it will not go away.
Yes. Thank you. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's right. My understanding, at least in Urdu, like you said, that Kisan is the person who tills the soil, who puts the seeds in the ground.
Right. Yeah. So he says, well, you make all kinds of changes there on the dirt, but they just disappear very fast. Do it on a kind of surface that it will stay there forever. Yeah. Yeah. Nafseto.
Yes. So
you see again, Brother Mehdi, when you see Bud and Bawad in Urdu, then it makes better sense. Kam Bawad, so that it becomes. Bawad is in future. Chu Naqsh Dar Jarme Hajar. When you say Bud, it means it happened already. But when you say Bawad, it means it might happen. It will happen. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
That's what we say in Urdu, but maybe you say it the same way both in Persian. We're learning.
Yeah. No, thanks for pointing that out. نفس تو با توست شاگرد وفا غیر فانی شد کجا جویی کجا. Sorry, let me read that again. نفس تو با توست شاگرد وفا غیر فانی شد کجا جویی کجا. So what it means is, so نفس تو با توست, your soul, right, is with you. It's a shagird. It's a shagird wafa. It's a loyal student. Ghair means everything else, anything else. Fani should, right? It perishes.
Right.
It disappears. It withers away. Koja juyi koja. Where are you searching? Right? Where will you seek them?
Yeah.
تا کنی مر غیر را تا کنی مر غیر را حبر و سنی خویش رو badkhoo wo khali mikoni. So as ta koni means as long as marghair ra habro sini. So as long as your focus is on, just making everybody else habro sini. So habr means learned. Sini means to make them or famous or of high status, as long as that's your focus, right? Of just basically teaching others and improving others. As long as that's your focus, you are going to be emptying yourself, and you will make yourself badhu, which means evil-natured and empty of true knowledge. Khali mikoni.
Yeah.
متصل شد چون دلت با آن عدن، هین بگو مهراس از خالی شدن. So متصل شد چون دلت. So once your heart becomes متصل or connected or wasl با آن عدن, with that Eden, right? That Garden of Eden. Or the true source. Hin begu. So at that point, say maheras as khali shudan. Don't be afraid of becoming empty. Amr qul zin amad ke ay rastin kam nakhahad shud begu daryastin. So when the command of qul, right, and this is referring to all of the qul that we see in the Quran, where Allah says to the Prophet, qul a'udhu bi rabbin nas, qul huwa Allahu ahad. Amr qul, so it's saying the command, the divine command of qul, zain amad, it came from this, that ay rastin, oh you who are righteous, kam nakhahad shud, this will not decrease. Begu daryastin, say that this is an ocean. In sukhan payan nadarad ay pesar, in sukhan ra tark kun payan nagar. So in sukhan payan nadarad means a pesar. A pesar means son. So son, in sukhan payan nadarad. This speech or this discourse will never end. In sukhan ra tark kun. So leave this speech. Payan nagar, and look to the end. Consider the end. So maybe this is a good place for me to stop. And
yeah.
Question.
We have quite a bit in there, mashallah. Yeah. So why don't you just abbreviate it yourself first, the whole these lines as to what he's basically teaching us here, Mawlana Rumi.
Yeah, I think a lot of times Mawlana Rumi, in Farsi we say bedar miguyad ke divar beshnavad. He talks to the door so that the wall hears. I think he's criticizing, he's criticizing and talking about people who have knowledge, scholars perhaps who have the knowledge and focus just on teaching, but don't improve themselves. But I think he's saying it so that we hear, so that we don't do that as we're on this path and trying to, increase our knowledge, and we're also teaching others. It shouldn't just be, us trying to improve others. For example, me just coming here and reading these lines in Farsi for everybody and trying to translate, but if I'm not getting anything out of it myself, then it's useless. At least that's what I'm coming away with here.
Yeah, the example that he gave of the arrow, that arrow goes out and gets the prey of a bird, but by himself is not benefiting it, he's giving it to the king who threw the arrow. So he says that although he does all the work and he knows exactly what to do and how to catch the prey, and yet it's of no benefit to that person. That is a beautiful example that really summarizes the lesson that you gave us today. And then other examples that he used basically is saying that there are certain things that are temporary and may not have much meaning, but get to the bottom of it. And again, you know, the one line that I always like to remind us when we talk about anything to do with knowledge, the first line should be the last line that he has given, that there is no end to any of this. So we should always remember that our knowledge, regardless of how much we acquire, will never be enough to understand everything around us. And we must start with the assumption that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has all the knowledge, and there are things out there from him that we are told that they are X, Y, Z, and whether we understand that or not, like I always keep saying, Mashriqan and Maghriban, two east and two west. I still cannot understand where are these two east and two west, but that doesn't mean that I have to understand everything today. Maybe in future, somebody will be able to tell us where the other east is. So accept it first, and then try to see if we can get that knowledge directly. So that is important, that our knowledge will always be insufficient, number one. And number two, unless we utilize that knowledge to better ourselves, it's useless. And quite frankly, the effect it has on others also varies. If we practice what we preach, others will also try to follow that. And if we say it and we clearly are not following it, and they can see it. If I tell my children, you must wake up in the morning and pray, and if they see me teaching them that, or myself, I don't even get up and pray, it's not going to have the same effect.
Beautiful. Yeah, no, right on.
All right, let's hear the comments. Ahmed, do you have anything to say? Are you still there?
Yes, no, mashallah, jazakallah khair. This is so beautiful. And I agree the arrow metaphor is a beautiful one that you shared. It also reminds me of what we talked about in previous weeks, that, you know, the couplet you have about the adhan, the words of the adhan being the same, but being very different depending on who reads it.
Exactly.
And so you can have the book knowledge. So for example, in management, if I can take from my own field in business, you know, if there's a principle that says, for example, that you should, you know, if you have satisfied customers, then you'll have, your business will grow. So this might be a maxim that everyone understands, that the business school professor can say this, but the one who actually runs a business and deals with customers and has clients and implements that, his or her understanding of that maxim will be deeper than that of the professor, even though the professor might have it in the book, but the practitioner is the one who really has the insight.
And he'll make the impact much better than the professor does. Yeah. But the Mulla is there. Let's see. Any comments? You're muted.
So, you know, the word, little bit of Iqbal in there, when he says that, you know, you have that sword of Imam Ali in you.
Yes.
So, you know, to use that, so that heritage that you have, you know, bring it out. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, that's a beautiful point. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to recognize yourself as to who you are. And this is why it becomes important, Brother Mahdi, to say that you do, because you have to say that with confidence. Yeah, that this is who you are. And just get it out and have that arm. You have that sword in you. Bring that arm. Arm is something that you make by your repeated actions and by trust in yourself. That is the courage. This is why you use dil also as courage. You have to have that strength and the belief in your strength. With the courage, then you will have Zulfikar that you have hidden in you will come out and do its job.
No,
Yeah,
that
that's a good point, Brother Mawlana. Yes,
that makes a lot more sense. I completely agree.
that's right. Yes.
Yeah, no, you have the tools, but you don't have the capability to use the tools.
Yeah.
Like the message of the shikwa, jawab shikwa, beautiful.
And the
But
I
sorry,
was just going to say the Zulfiqar that we have is the Islamic heritage and all of the knowledge that that's been given to us. It's been passed down to us. Sorry.
if I may ask a question, Brother Mehdi and Dad and Dr. Mughal, how do we reconcile this? Mashallah, obviously a lot of wisdom here, with also the idea that if you teach someone or guide someone to something good, you get a reward for that. So you get the reward, and that person, of course, also gets reward for it. So how do we reconcile these principles?
It's an excellent question because teaching is something that's very good to do, right? It's not. I think similar to like the last, the last, for example, chapter that we covered, not chapter, but the last, I guess,
subject, yeah.
we covered, yeah. Like my thought, I guess we were talking last time about, knowledge of the trade. And Dr. Abdul Rahman, he made a good point. He was like, well, we can't take this too much to an extreme, right? Because you do need knowledge of the trade. Otherwise, you're going to fall behind in the world and not be able to keep up. And I think maybe the consensus we came to is, I guess where we kind of need to, in that context, the grain of salt we kind of have to take is what he's really saying is don't become like an encyclopedia where you just regurgitate what you've read from others, and I think over here it's kind of similar. Maybe the grain of salt that we should take is that teaching is not bad. Teaching is actually very good, but it should be the companion to it, or what should be coupled to it is we as teachers and preachers to others, our emphasis should also be on more so on practicing what we preach and improving ourselves. At least that's how I reconcile it.
That's right. Yes. Perfect.
These are kind of beautiful. These are kind of beautiful heritage and messages that we have. It's a little off from what we're talking about, but I was visiting Kashmir one time and I'm invited for lunch by somebody, and before I could thank him, he thanks me that, thank you for coming to our house and being our guest. This will increase our you'll get more actually reward, or your whatever you have will increase by spending on your friends, on your guests. So that is a concept that we have, that not only that you get the benefit of the deed that you do, or the other person gets it, but you get it as well. So doing anything good is not just a favor to the other person, but it is for your own good. And that concept is a very important concept. The other thing important is that when we talk about these things, when we talk about our heritage and we talk about the Shamshir of Imam Ali, we also have to realize that what was his character, how did he get to that point. It's a struggle that you go through. So again, Iqbal says that maqam ishq mein, diyar ishq mein apna maqam paida kar. So to get to maqam, to get to something, you really have to go through a big struggle in, from what I've heard about Rumi's Sufi, what they did was that, the students had to go through times of not getting enough to eat, not getting enough sleep, um, working on their character, working on for over long hours. So it's a long training that you go through to get to that point. So we should also remember that the greatness of our ancestors was something to be very proud of, but at the same time, we got to realize what struggles and what trials and tribulations they went through to get to that point.
Yep.
Thank you. Beautiful.
Very good.
So we if when we get to the closing, we have, I hope Brother Nihat is still with us. Brother Nihat, inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. When he started, we remembered your beloved father, Allah yarhamhu, and inshallah we'll make dua at the closing dua, inshallah, for him.
Inshallah. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Amir. Thank you, brothers. Thank you. That is the truth, ultimate truth, and we will pass through the same process, all of us. My father was a good guy, a modest person, with the knowledge of halal and haram, with the consciousness of halal and haram. He was a teacher, by the way. He was a teacher of Islamic sciences, kalam, fiqh, hadith. Here in Turkey, we have high schools, Imam Hatip high schools, that are combining scientific education with religious education, actually. And he was on the religious education side. So he taught for almost 30 years in our hometown, Lokat. Yes, his students are everywhere. By the way, teaching is something like seeding, throwing seeds to the earth, actually, into the earth.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the seeds will grow, from those seeds, some good fruit may grow. Some of them will die in the earth. But this is this is something like a dua, actually. Teaching is something like a prayer. You are sowing the seeds in the earth and watering them, trying to create good conditions for them. And at the end, you have the harvest. And once you look to the harvest, it is something like imitating some of the names of Allah, actually. The name of Khaliq, the name of Rahmat, the name of, this is why teaching is so important, I think, because Allah is the ultimate teacher. He's teaching us.
Yeah.
He taught Adam, Prophet Adam. He taught Adam the words as expressed in Quran, the concepts. So the a priori concepts, maybe, if we try to think in terms of Kant, the philosophy of Kant, the a priori knowledge that Kant has mentioned, the reason, maybe that reason was the things that are taught to us by Allah, actually. So I want to say these things. He left us, but I wish, because of the good deeds he has done in the world, Allah may forgive his some shortcomings, some wrong things, and his balance will